Thank you, Mr. Manak, for giving your time to us today at We Lounge. We'd like to know a little from your professional journey's perspective. So, from your internship days to where you are today, how has the journey been for you?
I think the journey has been amazing, and I think what's been great for me is that at every stage of my career, I think I've learned something new and I've grown both as an individual and as a professional.
Great. So that's a very fantastic journey, I believe, that you had, because a long list of work experience is...
Absolutely. So I started my career with Procter & Gamble straight out of campus at IIM Ahmedabad. I started in Mumbai for 3 years, and then I did a succession of regional experiences across Southeast Asia, Asia Pac.
Right.
My last role was based in Singapore. And for the last 1 year, I've been back in India working with General Mills.
Extrue, exactly. So, and all of this in 18 years, which is a long time, and one does not get to hear of such things anymore. So for example, in Procter & Gamble, you were there for 18 years. So what kept you here for this long?
No, I think there were two big driving factors. One was, as an organization, I think there was a really good sync of values in terms of commitment to doing the right thing, really doing what's right for consumers and the community, and really a long-term commitment to building businesses and organizations. And secondly, while 18 years sounds like a long period of time, through that period of time I was fortunate to have very diverse experiences, work across different markets, different categories, work with people from very different backgrounds, nationalities and cultures. So not once during those 18 years did I feel like I was atrophying or not learning something new, so that tends to keep me going. I think the biggest thing I believe when it comes to managing tough business situations, whether it's a turnaround or it's managing change, is not just to focus on the what. I think a lot of people focus on the results, the numbers, but I think it's equally important to focus on the why. My going in belief is people are fundamentally good, they want to do the best they can, and if results are not coming or if a business has hit a rough patch, then it's important to understand what's going on. Why are the results being delivered the way they are? Is it that priorities aren't clear? There are resource issues, there are capability issues. So I like to always focus on the why. And because once you fix them, that's when you really get sustainable results. If you just focus on short-term numbers, you may solve the issue or solve the crisis for the short term, but you may not fix the underlying issue. So that's how I try to approach every business issue I've faced.
And I think that's a very unique thought, because not many people that I've come through talk about why is this being done in a particular way. So absolutely, that's a very good learning there. Now, now you're at General Mills, handling a team of over 450 people. How has your experience been here till now?
Oh, it's been a wonderful experience. I think when I talked about the values and the kind of fit I had at P&G, I could almost repeat that word for General Mills. It's a very strong values-driven organization, very strong commitment to improving consumers' lives, doing what's right for the community. So that's something which naturally syncs with the kind of person I am. And it's very exciting at this period of time to be with General Mills in India. We're really ramping up our growth. We have set ambitious targets. We're building a lot of foundational capabilities. And I see a really energized, enthusiastic organization. So it's been a really exciting and energizing time for me.
Sure. And I believe with your involvement, the foundations are getting even stronger.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's not just me. It's all 450 of us working together to lay these foundations.
Absolutely. Now, you also know 5 languages, out of which one is French and the other is Thai. How did you come about learning that?
I moved around a lot as a kid. My father was in the government, so I had the good fortune of getting exposure to diverse cultures. I was born in Nagaland, lived in Sikkim, lived in Delhi, lived in Canada for several years. And even when I started working professionally, I had the good fortune of being exposed to very different markets and cultures. So that's perhaps why I've developed both a love and appreciation of learning about different cultures and also got exposure to different languages.
Absolutely. So you speak both these languages, read?
I studied French formally when I was in Canada and came back. So at one point I was very fluent. I'm out of practice, but I'm sure if I get someone to talk with, I'll be familiar. And I lived in Thailand for a total of 5 years. So I've picked up conversational Thai. Again, I don't have constant practice, but those are both languages I learned as I went along.
Correct. Now we also have learned that you have the writing bug in you. So actually we'd like to know, how did the bug of writing get to you?
I'm not sure how. I really don't know. But ever since I can remember, ever since I was a young child, I wanted to write. And I remember I was perhaps 11 years old in Canada, and I read an interview by Stephen King. And in that he said, the moment someone pays you a penny for your writing, you're a professional author. Okay. So I had some poems written. I solved the maths textbook for the next term. I stapled my poems with them, and I sold the photocopies to my classmates for 50 cents a piece. Okay. And I came home and told my mother I'm now a professional author. I think commercially the most successful has been the Alice in Deadland series. So that's up to 8 books now, and that series has been optioned by a US studio for making into a TV film or series.
Right. How do you find the time to write these books?
I think when you're passionate about something, you naturally evolve ways of fitting it into your system. So what I try and do is when I am not with my family or not at work, I try and see how I can work my writing around it. So when I normally run in the morning, that's when I think about writing. I try and get half an hour every night for writing. When I'm traveling on airplanes, in airport lounges, at hotels in the evening, I write. Okay. So I think it's just a question of if you are passionate about something, you need to find time for it.
Absolutely. And out of all the books you've written, which is your personal favorite?
I think the one book which is perhaps closest to my heart is my first published novel, a novel called The Funda of Mixology. I had written it, I think, 7 or 8 years ago because it explored a lot of themes that are close to my heart. About us really resolving the dilemma between our professional pursuit and our personal passions, really trying to make sense of the rat race so many people find themselves in. So that's something which is really close to my heart in terms of the themes.
And with all of this currently happening with you, how do you manage the duality of work and personal life?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've realized over time is work-life balance is actually a flawed concept. Because it presupposes that you have your work on one side and you have everything else in your life going on the other, and that's doomed to failure. The way I think of it is we all have lives.
True.
Work is an important part of it, but it's one part of life.
True.
So it's not really balancing work with life, it's balancing all the roles you have to play. So I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a friend, I have responsibilities of society, I have my work. And how do you balance? So I think once you think of it that way, you realize some of the stress goes away because it's not just work and life, it's all the things, all the roles you need to play. And as long as you figure out what your priorities are, what's truly important to you, how are you doing justice to each of the roles you play every day, it makes it much easier to manage.
That's a really nice way of looking at things. True. And what is next for you in terms of professional achievement?
Well, walk into office tomorrow and do the best I can for my people.
Okay. All right. Now coming to General Mills. Going by the global figures, the company has grown tremendously to reach where it has today. What do you think have been the key factors of such sustainability?
Well, I think the big things that have underlying the company's success over many, many decades is its real commitment to consumers, really understanding what consumers' needs, better meeting consumer needs, and really underlying the business with a very strong commitment to values.
Right.
And I think that's what's kept the business growing, that's what's kept the organization motivated, that's what's kept the brands growing for many, many years.
Okay. So just inquisitive question here. I am noticing that you are mentioning of values a lot about in your previous stints and here. So what it does give, it gives me an understanding that value, if you have values set correctly, does that mean that you have all the organization set to be growing, going on the right path?
Well, I think at least having values does not necessarily mean business will grow, but what it does is it gives everyone a certain guiding light of why are we doing what we're doing.
Sure.
It comes back to the whole question of why. Because fundamentally, if the only reason we're in business is to sell more cases and make more money, that's not going to really lead you to innovate. That's not really going to lead you to create organizations. And when I talk about some of the values that we hold dear, one of our central values is do the right thing, which is you would never do anything that is not right for short-term gain. So that in itself becomes a very powerful statement to people, how we think about quality, how we think about ethics, how we think about business terms. So the important thing is do the right thing, do it for the long term. We're not in it just for short-term results. One of our core values is winning as a team. So the culture is very hinged on how do we all win together. It's not about an individual star. It's all about creating a collaborative atmosphere where we're all winning. So I think where values like that really call out is it gives people an expectation of how we want to achieve, results and why we are doing what we're doing. And I think sometimes that becomes a really important thing to ground an organization and ground employees.
And that very much defines the culture
Absolutely.
of the organization.
Absolutely.
Sure. So now, in terms of the end consumer, which consumer end does the company focus on and why?
I think the great thing about General Mills in India and certainly globally as well is we have a pretty diverse portfolio.
Right.
So if you think of our India portfolio itself, all the way from super premium ice cream with Haagen-Dazs to Atta,
Right.
which is very much an everyday consumption. And so I think there is not one consumer we're going after, but I think what's important is wherever we compete with each part of our portfolio, we really strive to understand that consumer. We try to understand how we can best meet his or her needs.
Yeah.
And delight them over time.
Absolutely. Now, which is the leading brand of the company?
In India, that would be Pillsbury.
Pillsbury. Yeah, we do remember the ads and everything.
Absolutely.
Now, what would e-commerce mean to a company like yours, and would the company go the e-commerce way?
No, I think absolutely. I think on e-commerce, it's not really a question of whether any longer. For any industry, it's more a question of when and how. And I think as far as packaged foods go, e-commerce is still in its infancy, but it's something that will no doubt take off.
Absolutely.
So I think it's more just a question of when and how and what are the steps you take. So clearly something we're looking at actively and we'd want to get involved in more. I think there are many trends, but if I think about three that come to mind, which I think are very important in the food industry in India, I think the first trend is because of a number of factors. Restaurants, eating out, access to information, international travel, the internet. Indian consumers are now much more aware and demanding of what they expect from their food in terms of variety. In terms of international cuisines, in terms of international concepts, in terms of concepts from other parts of India.
Right.
So I think that demand for variety is clearly something that is a big trend that is shaping the food industry. I think the second big trend, which is not just in India but globally, is consumers are increasingly aware and demanding of the health aspect of food. What are they consuming? What does it mean for them and their family's health? And that's something which manifests itself differently in different markets, but clearly something that's a big trend that's emerging. And I think the third trend that is emerging when it comes to Indian food, and in our brand we have a brand called Parampara, which plays in the sphere of traditional Indian food, is the whole trend of nuclear families, working couples, want the same authentic taste they've grown up on, but they may not necessarily have the time or expertise.
True.
So that balance of you have certain tastes and experiences in your mind that perhaps your mother or grandmother used to make for you, and today's reality where you don't have the time or necessarily the expertise. So I think those are the three big trends I see, which is increasing demand and access to variety, questions about health and increasing demands on health. And the third is this whole tension point between being time-starved, not having necessarily the skills but still demanding the best results.
And now, how does General Mills add value to its dealer network?
Well, I think the first thing really comes back to who we are as a company and some of the values we talked about, is really being a trusted, dependable partner who's in it for the long term. So clearly when we approach any partnership, or when we even think about employees or agencies or dealers, it's very much we'd like to create a win-win partnership long term. So one is creating that trust, that if you're in business with us, you can trust that we'll do the right thing and we'll try and create a win-win. And the second one is through our brands and through our portfolio to really create an ongoing source of results for both of us. And that's how we really try to create a win-win.
Okay. Now, do you have manufacturing units in India as well?
Yes, we do. We have 2 plants in Nasik.
Okay, great. And what will the key drivers of growth be for General Mills in India now?
Absolutely. I think at General Mills, we really believe that growth really comes from putting the consumer first. And so if I really reframe what will drive growth for us, as looking at it from the Indian consumer's eyes, the first is getting to more consumers. So we have a great portfolio. How do we now take that to more consumers? Right. Second is how do we expand our portfolio to better meet consumer needs? So, if I take the example of Parampara, we were in ready-to-cook paste for the last couple of years. But the vast majority of Indian consumers don't use paste for cooking. They use powder masalas. We've recently used those capabilities to launch a range of what we call expert masalas.
Okay.
So gradually expand our portfolio so we can meet consumer needs. And the third is how do we get to consumers in more parts of India.
Right.
So right now we have a presence in several big cities. We'd love to further expand our presence to really get to consumers in more parts of India.
Interesting. Now, what is the next milestone for General Mills?
Well, I think it's an ongoing journey, but the internal goal that we're all rallying together around is that we'd like to make General Mills the fastest growing foods company in India.
And we wish you all the best.
So that's a milestone which will take steps to get there, but that's really what's rallying all our efforts together.
Great. Now, how does one engage the customer in this business?
I think the biggest thing is to understand their needs.
Right.
I think when you truly understand what a consumer wants, what their issues, frustrations, desires with what they're currently using are, that's when you can truly engage. So I think a lot of it comes down to empathy and understanding.
Right. Okay. Now, coming to the last question of this bit, what is marketing in your words?
In one word, I'd say empathy. Too many people think marketing is about selling. I think when you truly understand someone and offer them what meets their needs, that's true marketing. When you're trying to sell someone what you have independent of what they truly need, that's not marketing.
Sure. So I guess relating to them at an emotional level is...
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, we'd like to keep the business and the professional journey apart.
Sure.
And we'd like to know you, Manak, as a person.
Yeah.
So what is the first thing you do the moment you enter your office?
I call my wife and I tell her I've arrived, ask her if all's well, and then I get back to work.
Okay, that's the first I've heard. What is the one thing you like the most about your job?
It's the fact that I can really see and make a positive impact on people every day. So that's what really keeps me buzzed. So you talked about all those employees, and what really gives me a buzz is knowing that I've made a positive difference in someone's lives. If I can help buzz barriers, help someone do their job better, help someone solve a tough issue that they're working on,
Right.
I've made a concrete improvement in someone's life, even in a small way. That's what really keeps me motivated.
And what is the one thing you like the least about your job?
Nothing. How I operate is if I'm doing something, I'm 100% full on.
Okay.
And there'll always be things that make less sense to you or you don't like as much. My operating belief is if you don't like something, you change it, you fix it, or you understand more. So you at least understand why it is the way it is and make peace with it.
Okay. And what is the secret of Manak's success?
Never being so presumptuous that I think I'm successful enough to share secrets.
Okay. All right. Now, on an average, how many hours of work do you put in a week?
I never count. I don't count.
Okay.
I think quality counts more than quantity. So
I am with you on that, absolutely. And what were you paid in your first job?
I think when I joined off campus, if I'm not mistaken, the joining salary was, I think, 1.75 or 1.76 lakhs per year. Yeah.
So I'm definitely not asking you now. Okay. And where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Still on the same journey, trying to be the best father I can, best husband I can, and be the best person for my people at work. So,
sure. And what has been your biggest strength in all these years?
I think just staying grounded, realizing that it's not about winning or losing, not about success or failure. Every single one of us is a work in process.
Sure.
All of us have natural things we enjoy doing more, are better at, and we need to keep getting better at those. All of us have things we can still learn more about. So the way I think of it, the whole question on strengths and weaknesses is, I don't look at it that way. I don't look, because that assumes that something is either good or bad.
Yeah.
I think all of us in our lives are like jigsaw puzzles.
True.
They'll change over time. You need to keep finding the new pieces, see how things fit together, keep getting better, and all of us will build ourselves. That's how I believe in it. So I don't personally subscribe to this theory of strengths and weaknesses. I think all of us can do better at many things. All of us have natural talents we can leverage, and it's just that continuous improvement journey.
Very interesting. And what do you think has been your biggest weakness?
As I said, I don't really believe in the whole theory of strengths, and many things I can learn much more about, but the moment you start thinking of them as weaknesses, it becomes negative. For me, not being good at something is positive, because then that should unleash positive energy to get better at it. The moment we say weakness, it becomes negative, which is why I think some of these terms we use, even when we talk to our employees, it's not about what are you good at, what are you not so good at. It's saying what are things you would like to learn more about, which is positive, because all of us will learn all our lives.
True. And what that really creates is a very positive environment.
Absolutely.
When you're just not inclined and thinking that way. Okay, and what makes you happy as a person?
Knowing I've made a positive difference to someone, whether it's in my family, whether it's at work, whether it's in the broader society. I think that's fundamental. At a philosophical level, I believe that's why we're all put here on earth, which is to make a way. And you can see from the books I have some of my books, and I have Awakening India by Swami Vivekananda. So I firmly believe, yes, we may be doing a job, we may have certain numbers to deliver, but at a more emotional, fundamental level, we should all strive to make a positive difference. And if I can do that in even a small way, I can sleep well at night.
Great. Now, do you have a role model? If yes, why do you look up to them, or why were they your role model?
No, there are many people I admire, but I can't say I have any one role model. I'd love to be the best I can be, rather than try and be a copy of anyone else.
Yeah. True. Great. Now, coming to the rapid fire questions, bit.
Very good. You have a buzzer for rapid fire?
No. You don't have one. But yeah, you need to tell me the first word.
Sure.
So describe Manak in one word.
Balanced.
Okay. Describe what General Mills means to Manak in one word.
Values.
Okay. Favorite destination.
Home.
What does Manak splurge on?
Family.
Okay. Is a fitness-oriented person?
Yes.
Okay. If not the professional career, where would have Manak be?
A writer or a bartender or a writer who sits at a bar.
Again, that's the first that I heard. One love.
My family.
Okay. One thing left to do.
See my son grow up to be a wonderful man.
Great. Favorite quote, if any?
There's a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. which I love, which is, human salvation lies in the hands of the creatively maladjusted.
Okay. It's very interesting. All right. Now, we'd like to know you. We'd like to know you in different stages of your life. So, how was Manak at 18?
In college, having fun, trying to figure out what the future would bring.
Yeah. And Manak at 25?
Working, single, planning out my future career.
Okay. And Manak at 30?
Married, bit older, bit wiser, starting to realize that you shouldn't just plan the future, you should enjoy each and every day.
Absolutely. Now, we'd like to know any incident from which you've learned, and if you'd like to share to us, or is there a message that you have for our young professionals?
Well, I'd like to share a few thoughts. And first of all, I'm really happy I got this opportunity to connect with all the young professionals and students at Wellinger, if only virtually. Okay. And I wish you all the very best in your careers and your lives. And as I said, I don't consider myself qualified to dispense any advice to anyone, but if I think of three things that I believe in which keep me going every day, first is be humble. Every single one of us, as I said, is a work in process. All of us have lots to learn, and I think humility is the first step towards self-improvement and wisdom. Second is be curious. We live in a fast-changing world. Things often change around us. There are so many things to learn about. So whatever you do, whichever field of work you get into, have the curiosity to learn. And the third is be resilient. Life is long, careers are long. You talked about all my so-called successes. I have a long list of failures. Many times when I went wrong, and sometimes we will go wrong. Sometimes, and that's the nature of life. That's the nature of business. We should, and that's the nature of business. So expect and accept the fact that along with all your stunning successes, which I hope all of you experience, know that you will fail. Don't be paralyzed by that. Don't be discouraged by that. In fact, take it in your stride and learn from it. I have personally learned more from my failures than I have from my successes, because that's what makes us more mature professionals and people.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that is really great of you. We are glad you shared so many of your insights with us. And yes, I think we're conveying a very strong message to our student base there.
Thank you so much. Thanks for this opportunity. Pleasure. Thank you.